10 random magic cards rated, day number 91. My tooth hurts. Let's try to take my mind off of it with the first card of the day. It's Mantle of the Ancients. This is from Forgotten Realms Commander, Wildsville Drain Commander, Fallout. They just keep giving it cool new art. I really like this this Wildsville Drain one. This is 5 mana, 3 and 2 white for an aura that enchants a creature you control. When it ETBs, return any number of target aura and or equipment cards from your yard to the battlefield attached to enchanted creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it. So, ethereal armor. Well, no, it's not. That gives you, +1/+1 for each enchantment you control. But yeah, for each aura, +1/+1. And for each equipment attached to it, +1/+1. You can probably make a huge guy immediately. Like, even if the dude's a 1/1, if you have like a couple of auras and an equipment in your yard, then suddenly you have like a 10 power guy. But it sure does require a lot of doing, doesn't it? There's a few moving parts to this one I don't love, but I'm surprised. I've built Sithis, I've dabbled in Bant enchantments, and I've never really seen this card. Whether it was on EDH Rec or whatever, I've never actually seen this. Which is kind of wild because the card's kind of cool. But even in most Enchantress decks, I'm not actually playing with too many auras. And I'm not a big equipment guy, you know what I mean? So I imagine some people are going to love this card. And I definitely see the potential in it, but I'm still just going to give it like a 4.8, which is low. I think that's probably way too low. But I think the card's like kind of a lot of work, you know what I mean? Just to get blown away. I'm not too sure. Next is Lazar the Multifarious. Why didn't this guy see any play in Standard, man? He's so good. And now he's gone. This is 2 mana, a blue and a black for a 1/3 legendary shapeshifter. When he ETBs, surveil 1. You can also pay X. Lazar the Multifarious becomes a copy of a creature card in your yard with converted mana cost X, except its name is Lazar the Multifarious. It's legendary in addition to its other types, and it still has this ability too. That's so good. Every time I read this card, I'm just like, okay. Keep going, Professor. You know what I mean? 2 mana, 1/3, surveil 1 on ETB with the ability to become anything in your yard for the cost of its mana cost. And you can keep doing stuff. So you can do this again if something else hits your graveyard. There's probably ways that you can like turn this into a guy in your yard, do a thing, and then turn it into a different guy in your yard and do a thing that like dovetails from the previous thing. Lazar looks so cool. Like both as a commander and as like a standard playable card, but card's been out of standard for like a couple of years now. You know what I mean? It didn't do anything when it wasn't standard, but I've just always liked this, man. I'm going to give it a 5 because I give out honorary 5 sometimes, and I think Lazar deserves one, dude. I think he does. I think there's just so much for this to do that it hasn't done. Are people playing it in Pioneer? I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it deserves way more than a 5, but I don't think so. I just love Lazar. Sister Repentia is up now. I have no idea what this is. This is from Warhammer. It's a 5 mana, 3 a white and a black, so I'm going to love it. It's a 5/1 human warrior with martyrdom. Oh, that just means it's got a death trigger. That's stupid. So when it dies, you gain 2 life and draw 2 cards. Okay. Also has Miracle white-black. So you can cast it for its miracle cost when you draw it if it's the first card you draw this turn. Okay. So bringing back Miracle in the Warhammer set, which is kind of neat. I didn't even know they did that. Actually, I think I did know they did that. I just forgot. But yeah, so you know what this reminds me of? Kind of like a ball lightning. You know what I mean? Like you get in the best case scenario, you get a 2 mana 5/1, gain 2, draw 2. You know, it's nothing special when you think about it because most of the time you are going to pay the 5 mana, like 99 times out of 100, literally in Commander. You're probably going to pay the 5 mana for this, and if you have to pay the 5 mana, it's not that good. So I'm just going to give it like a 4.6, but that is dangerously close to a almost playable Magic card, so it should probably be less than that. But I don't know. It's not bad. It's probably getting an extra couple tenths of a point just for being Orzhov. You know what I mean? Great death trigger. Like insanely. Draw 2 cards when it dies is great. But moving on to Pack Song Pup. We've already talked about you in a recent one, but you are good, dude. You are good. Furnace of Wrath. Yes, like one of my favorite cards of all time. Furnace of Wrath is 4 mana, 1 and 3 red for an enchantment. Double all damage assigned to any creature or player. My goodness, right? It's pretty good. The way that's written now is if a source would deal damage to any permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. Note the now it also includes planeswalkers where it didn't before. Although I think that there was a point where player if it said player on a card, that also meant planeswalker, because planeswalkers were also considered players. We did a whole thing. But still, yeah. This also makes it to where you get hit for double damage. And I don't care at all. It turns out that a lot of like burn decks from back in the day didn't even bother playing this because it costs 4 mana, right? You have to take off your turn 4, and then your opponent hits you in the mouth for double what they would have if you didn't play a Furnace of Wrath. So, like, this requires a lot of setup, and it's mostly, I believe, a kitchen table and commander card, but it is a beloved one. Very, very beloved one that I will always, kind of hold dear to my heart. And it is worth some score here. I think it is because, again, if you can set up Furnace of Wrath correctly, then you're probably going to deal an awful lot of damage the turn it comes into play. So let's give this a 6.4, mostly for old time's sake, but it is obvious. That's a very good line of text, obviously. We'll move on to Hidden Dragon Slayer. This is 2 mana, 1 and a white. It's originally printed in Dragons of Tarkir. I sort of remember you. So 2 mana for a 2/1 human warrior with lifelink and, oh my god, Megamorph. So 2 and a white to flip it up. But you can cast it face down as a 2/2 for 3 mana anytime you want to. During your turn. Turn it face up anytime for its Megamorph cost. Put a +1/+1 counter on it. So when Hidden Dragon Slayer's turn face up, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater an opponent controls. So this did see a fair amount of play in its standard environment. Not all of the play, but it was around. I remember this being around a good bit. Just a solid Magic card, man. A 2 mana 2/1 lifelink is a Child of Night, I think it's called. Just by itself, and that's not very good. But if you do get the Megamorph, you have a 3/2 lifelink that blows something up, and that's great. Even though it's an investment of 6 mana, you get to pay it in installments, so it's kind of fine. You know what I mean? But this is all right. I have to give it like a 5.2. But it probably doesn't quite deserve that. I'm just remembering it in standard. But in like casual commander, it's probably like a 4.8 or something. But I'm going to just say 5.1. Let's say 5.1. I remember this card fondly. Next is Verdant Catacombs, baby. We get a fetch land. Banned in Explorer and Historic, huh? So, fetch lands, what do you give them? What do you give these? These are the original, these are the old school, classic fetches. Tap, pay a life, sack it, go get one of 2 different, land types. In this case, swamp or forest. So that doesn't mean you have to go get a basic. A bit of a mistake when they printed this card. But yeah. And now, this day and age, it means you can go get any number of things because there's a ton of like different things with basic land types, right? So these just get better the more they print like surveil lands and stuff like that, These are probably a 9. Can we give them a 9? Would you be upset if I gave these a 9? I don't think you would be, so I'm not gonna skimp, man. These are among the best lands ever printed in the history of Magic, so 9, sure. Dark Offering is up next. It's from Portal 2nd Age, but also starter, so unless you're in a starter product of some kind, you ain't gonna be seeing this card. 6 mana. 4 and 2 black for a sorcery because all cards in Portal and Starter were sorceries, or all spells. Destroy any one creature that is not black. You gain 3 life. So Terror, it's not even Terror. It's Dark Banishing, which costs 3 mana, but it's also a sorcery. Add 3 mana, gain 3 life. So I guess so I gain 1 life for each mana added to a Dark Banishing's cost. This card is abysmal. Like, even for a removal spell, it's very, very bad. It's not even unconditional, so I'm just going to give it a 2.1 because, it's still a removal spell at the end of the day. But Faithless Salvaging is up next from Modern Horizons 2 specifically. This is 2 mana, 1 and a red for an instant, discard a card, draw a card. Also has Rebound, so if you cast it from your hand, you exile it as it resolves. Beginning of your next upkeep, you may cast this card from exile without paying its mana cost. So it's actually discard 2 cards, draw 2 cards. And it's just fine. It's not actually that good. really isn't. I'm going to give this a 3.4. Somewhere in there. It's just okay. Final card of the day, though, is Shiven. We actually, I feel like we just did this one not long ago. So I'm sorry, Shiven, I got to pass you over. For Suspicious Shambler. Only ever printed in Jumpstart 22. 4 mana. 3 and a black for a 4/2 Zombo. You can pay 6 mana, that's 4 and 2 black, and exile it from your yard to create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens at sorcery speed. So a 4 mana 2/2, pay 6, get 2 2/2s. Not great. Not actually great. I do like that it's like a couple of zombies in a trench coat. I think that's pretty hilarious. The best part of it is the flavor of the art, but I think we have to do a bonus card today because the video is running relatively short, honestly. And this card's not good. So let's bonus card of the day is Telethopter. This one's not good either, but at least I remember it from Tempest. This is 4 mana for a 3/1 artifact creature. Tap a creature you control to have Telethopter gain flying until end of turn. Isn't that dreadful? But doesn't the Thomas Boxa art look like kind of neat? You know, you don't see art like that every day. I kind of like the steez of it. Doesn't the border just look perfect? Isn't there something nostalgia inducing about this border along with this art, along with this set symbol? God, I miss Magic. But this card's bad, so I'm just gonna give it like a 1.7. Why would I have to tap a guy down to have a 4 mana 3/1 flyer? You know what I mean? Like that ain't good, man. But that is all we've got for today, ladies and gentlemen. So I will see you again tomorrow with more cards, I presume. That's mostly why we're here. I love you. Bye.